I think I don't notice a lot when I bump into things. For the first few years when I was teaching, I would have these bruises on the side of my thigh. And I was like, what the hell is happening here? And then I realized I would bump into the desks in the classroom. I'm not in the moment of like, oh, okay, let me make sure my body is in a, good, balanced, safe place. Welcome back to Divergent Paths. I'm Dr. Regina McMenomy, PhD, not MD, and I'm joined by my friend and co-host, Russ Catanach. Today, we're diving into two of the lesser-known sensory systems, interoception and proprioception. These internal senses are crucial to how we experience the world, and for many neurodivergent folk, they can be sources of confusion, frustration, and misunderstanding. Want to dive more deeply into this topic or other topics we discuss on the show? Sign up for our newsletter at divergentpathsconsulting.com. But let's dive into this episode, lovingly nicknamed, Where Did That Bruise Come From?
So, what are you doing to me?
What am I doing to you?
Yeah.
Torturing you, of course.
You can at least write pronunciations in these things that you're having me ask you about and bring up, like interoception?
Yes.
Proprioception?
Yes.
But what are they?
So interoception is your internal sense of what's going on inside your body. So your ability to understand your body's internal needs. So this would fall into recognizing when you're hungry, recognizing when you're thirsty, recognizing when you need to use the bathroom, recognizing that you're breathing, any of those pieces. That is interoception. It's when your brain takes inventory of what's going on inside your body.
And then so
Proprioception.
Is that outside of your body?
That is outside your body. So that is you understanding where your body is in space. So like where you are standing, where, how close you are to something. This is what allows you to walk and maintain your balance, what allows you any kind of coordination, how we know without thinking the pressure we need to open a door or close a door. You don't think about that, right? You don't think about oh, how hard do I need to pull? Unless the door's stuck or something, or the door is going to be stuck. You don't think about how much effort you need to put into that. That is all proprioception. And both of these can be struggles for people with ADHD and autism and neurodiversity.
Okay. I'm glad you went there, because I was just thinking we were turning this into the Webster's word of the week.
Right. We're just going to talk about definitions.
But now, okay. Yeah. That would be a fun podcast, wouldn't it?
That would be.
You might like it. Okay. So how do these show up differently in neurodivergent people?
So with proprioception, one of the things we see a lot, and one of the things I have definitely experienced through the majority of my life, is the phrase, where did that bruise come from? In fact, that just happened yesterday, where I went to bed and I had a bruise on my wrist. No clue where this bruise came from. And last night, it's faded a lot, but last night it was purple. And I was I had to have hit myself for this to be.
Is that you just not
dark.
Remembering?
I think I don't notice a lot when I bump into things. For the first few years when I was teaching, I would have these bruises on my thigh, on the side of my thigh, very consistently, about the same height, about the same place. Just always had this kind of bruise. And I was like, what the hell is happening here that I am hitting something there? And then I realized I would bump into the desks in the classroom.
So you're just so focused on what you're
when I
doing
would walk around,
that you're not paying attention to this other thing that's happening.
I am not paying attention to my proprioception gets pushed to the back, right? It is not something I am paying really close attention to. It's not something that my body or my brain is prioritizing, right? So I'm not in the moment of oh, okay, let me make sure my body is in a, good, balanced, safe place, not thinking about it. Teaching in the moment, in the, often in that case, when I was bumping into the desks, moving from like group to group in class, because I did a lot of like group work and a lot of like, small group work with them, talking with each other and sharing papers and their writing and stuff. I would be moving around the classroom a lot to go from one group to the next. And I was always in demand, right? I was always, everybody always needed help at some point in time and everybody wanted to talk to me. So I was constantly on the move in the classroom. And that was my priority, was to make sure my students got as much of my, time and energy and expertise as I could. So yeah, I was not paying attention to where I was in space. Also, they would move the desks around. The desks aren't always in the same space. Like I don't bump into the corner of my desk in my office because it doesn't move. It's like in the
Right.
same place, right? I've also learned in my like household setup to have really wide spaces between certain things. So so I can navigate through them and not like hit the corners of things. Right. Yeah.
So are you either in one space or the other?
Oh, interoception or proprioception?
Right.
No, like they're running at the same time. Like that's one of the, beautiful and
But are you
amazing
leaning
things.
towards, because the way that you're describing things, I'm sort of picturing it like as a valve
as a
that you're, or as a,
okay.
Yeah. You're going, from
Like,
one to
are
the
you
other. Is
more
it
intero versus pro?
right?
Like proprio. I think largely they are things that, for my internal experience of my neurodiversity, they are the things that I shut out the most, right? So we've talked a lot about like hyper focus, where you don't notice you need to go to the bathroom, right? Because you're on whatever you're doing, you're in the moment, you're not thinking about your body because you're in whatever you're doing that has so much of your focus. You're not thinking about, oh, I need to go to the bathroom, or, oh, I need to eat, or anything like that, right? So I think that they are the systems that I don't want to say devalue, because that's not right either, that I deprioritize, right? That I say, I can just push this to the side for a minute. And I don't think about, that's part of the reason why the bruises come around, or why I end up, hungry. I had a friend from high school, Amity, who visit me a little over a year ago. And I said, part of the problem, or one of the difficulties with my ADHD medication, is it's an appetite suppressant, right? Stimulants often suppress your appetite. And I didn't know what that was going to look like for me. And I said, I forget to eat. And she's like, well, that's not new. Like, I'm glad that stayed the same, because you were like that in high school too. You would constantly forget to eat.
Right. Like, is it generally the same for you all the time for each one of these? Or is it like,
is it
do you see
different at different times?
Yeah.
I think so. So I said this like in my 20s, when I was working at IBM, and I had to be to work at like, 8:15, 8:30 in the morning, and I had to get up and shower every day, that I knew it was going to be a clumsy day for me when I knocked over the bottles in the shower in the morning. Like I would knock over the shampoo bottle, or like I would have days where I would just be more prone to knocking things down in the morning. And those days were days that I struggled more. And I think, that was related to not getting enough sleep, or, all kinds of different things that were going on. But yeah, I would know that if my proprioception is off, that like I'm going to struggle that day. Right. So yeah, I think it does kind of lean toward like, okay, how do these things interact with everything else I have going on?
So it changes, but is it in sort of the same, like, okay, your proprioception is always like somewhere between a 6 and an 8 for you, or a 2 and a 3 for you. Like, is there a range for you that it's pretty much always falling within that range? I'm thinking like, diagnostically, like it's easier to figure out, like I'm wondering if there's sort of a range just for you. Causing you to think about this, aren't I?
You are causing me to think about this, and I'm trying to go through like what I think the factors are that impact both of these things. So I would say that when I am my nervous system is regulated, when I am rested and well fed, and I've had enough physical activity, which is really, really important, enough activity that has kind of like reset my internal processing. When all of those things are in line, I would say my proprioception and my interoception are really good. On the other side of that, I would say when I'm really stressed, when I am dysregulated, when I am emotionally activated, I would say both of them are on the low side. I think I am more
Okay.
likely to skip meals. I'm more likely to get hungry. I'm more likely to forget that I need to go to the bathroom. I'm more likely to forget to take a walk during the day to reset my nervous system and regulate myself because I'm stressed out, because I shut those things out when I'm in a fight or flight, freeze, whatever, fawn, all of those. If I'm in that, my cortisol is high and my stress levels are high, all this goes out the window.
Right.
Yeah. So
Right.
when I'm, so I probably most of the time live in some sort of like amorphous in between of like being better and being worse, depending on kind of where my stress levels are settling out.
I always, the things that we talk about on the show here, like I always think like people look at these things just themselves. They're looking
Mm-hmm.
at this as like a character flaw,
They are.
right? And,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I think so.
And
Like, well, I mean, we look down on people who are clumsy, right?
right.
Like as a
Right.
society, we just kind of prioritize, you know, gracefulness. So when you are just naturally clumsy and you bump into things and you don't notice, like, 'cause sometimes I'll
hmm
like bump into things and not recognize that like I'm about to knock over a table worth of, like, if I'm at a fair or festival or something like that, and there's a table of like glass goods, like, like I don't want to go near you. Because I could clip the edge of that table and knock a bunch of stuff over, and that would be not great.
Right. And you're buying all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, so understanding these complicated words that you gave me today,
Yes.
when you started to understand these, how did it change the way you looked at yourself?
I became a lot more gentle with this. Um, Probably especially the interoception and like keeping track of like my internal states, because much of my young childhood was very stable. Things were lovely. I have a very loving family. But when my dad died when I was 13, things got very unstable after that, and there were, parts of that still continue to this day. That is of like this instability with my family. And so like I think I had a lot of like time to kind of understand, but like when I was going through puberty, to have such a like massive event happen that offset everything in my family, I started to really not be able to recognize these states for myself, like especially with hunger. And like, I joked earlier that like in high school I would always forget to eat, and that was not like, this is something that my high school friends remember about me. So it's to that level, right? And it's,
hmm
and it said, it wasn't, when Amity brought it up, she wasn't bringing it up in terms of like shaming me about it. She's like, yeah, that's something that you've always struggled with. And it's like, oh yeah, so this is something that is recognized by the people who know me and who know me well and who spend time with me. So like being able to step back and say, this isn't because I'm failing my body. This is because my brain is wired in a way that has this as a natural edit. Like it naturally edits this out because my brain is optimized for protection and for service and for, caring for other people. So my needs in that regard go to the side. So I got a lot more gentle with how I recognize and how I care and how I look at that now. And that's
Right.
been super powerful for me.
When you were in your teens, there weren't screens that you were
Right?
holding around, right?
Yeah.
It was like what, abacus or something. But anyway, with those days versus now, we've now got the screens, and we've talked, several
Yeah.
episodes. We'll bring up how technology can help, and we've
Right.
also brought up a couple of times where technology can sort of,
Mhm.
hinder us even more. Do you think that like having these little devices with us
Devices.
all the time
Yeah.
has like changed the way, like, are we losing touch with our senses?
I think my honest answer to that is I don't really know. I think that there's always some new shiny thing. Like and
Right.
then what I often talk about how every time there's a new technology, there's always this fear of the societal impact it's going to have, right? Or, you know, now
Mhm.
we look a little bit more too at like the environmental impact that some of the new technologies can have. Um, like they thought radio was going to be bad for people. you
Right.
know, they
Right.
thought radio was dangerous. They thought the TV was dangerous. And so like and then it was video games. And in every generation, a Slayer is born. No, wait, sorry. That's definitely a tangent we don't need to go on right now. And every generation, there is a new technology that comes. And with that comes the fear of the impact that it has. And as someone who is currently raising, a preteen, I'm very much mindful about these issues of screen time, of phones, of,
Mhm.
there's discussion among parents, and a lot of people take very different, approaches to this. And my approach in that has been I want my child to learn now good digital hygiene, right? I want her to be mindful of when she gets caught in that scroll, when she's spent too much time doing one thing. I want her to think about the notifications and think about what it's doing so that she starts to have this process of recognizing internally when I need to put this down and go do something else. Like
Right.
that is an important process in our modern lives, because the truth is those little screens are not going away. Like our whole lives, like my whole life is on my phone in some ways now.
Right.
Like I'm
Yeah.
going to the theater tonight and my tickets are on my phone, like that is it. I didn't
Mhm.
print them out. I didn't things, it's there,
Yeah.
and that's not something we're going to move away from. So being able to look at like, okay, how is this impacting me? And I will out myself right now and say, I was really tired last night. I went on a really rigorous hike yesterday and I was worn out, and I still scrolled too long last night before I went to bed.
Right.
I still did it. And
Mhm.
I like by the time I put my phone down, I was out instantly, which was great for me because I don't like the slow process of falling asleep is torture for me a lot of the time. So it was good that I just like the light switch went off. But I
Yeah.
also would probably needed about half an hour more of sleep than I ended up getting, because I let myself fall into that process, and I
Right.
was like, "Oh, just one more video," until it was like, 10 minutes past when I wanted to go to bed, and I was like, "Okay, I need to just put this down now." And then I did. So,
Right. Right. Well, yeah, I mean, that's where, like that excessive screen time, just one more video, we've all done
yeah.
it.
Yeah, or just one
Um,
more turn if you're playing
exactly.
a
Yeah.
game, or just through this next no, to one more
Right.
the next save
Oh man, I
point,
made it to
like,
this round. Let me get to the
right,
next
let me
round.
just
Let
get to
me
one more. I do that with
Right.
Duolingo sometimes right now, like, "Oh, I'll just do just one more level. Oh, if I just clear this out," like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was, I mean, it goes back even, okay, we'll go back to the 90s, whatever, like, playing Mario or something,
Mhm.
it's like, oh, let me just beat this next level. Let me just beat the
Exactly.
boss. Let me just get to this next thing before
Mhm.
I break for dinner or
Yes.
before I go to
Mhm.
the bathroom or before, and
Exactly,
now it's like
whatever it is.
those screens are with us. So the constant attention's like just,
Mhm.
it probably, I mean, I would think because we're focused on the screen, there's less like awareness of ourself and our surroundings. So I would
It can be
think
easy to get
that,
lost in it. Yeah. Yeah. And
yeah,
that's part of
yeah,
why I have really tightened up on the notifications that are allowed to pop up on my screen.
yeah.
I don't
Only for
allow.
me. That's what's really cool. That's the only
Russ, it's
notifications
top
that you get.
priority.
Yeah, it's awesome. So what are some of the tools? Let's get into that. Like some of the tools that can, strengthen and support this, like digital tools, but also just the things that we can do.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the really good things you can do is movement, is any kind of movement that you can do, like taking regular walks. Um, if you are able, if you have a body that is capable of things like yoga, that can be really good. So learning that, I think, helps a lot. Learning how to dance would be really good for your proprioception, because it's really important to learn. It's a really easy way to learn like where you're at in space, right? Where your body's at,
Mhm,
to learn how
mhm.
to dance. In terms of interoception, it's really important to think about learning to just kind of scan your body and recognize, like we've talked a little bit about, the somatic experience of your feelings and how like your feelings have bodily impact, and starting to learn about like what it means when your shoulders start to get tight, and when you start to get a headache, like taking that scan. Am I getting a headache because I'm emotionally stressed out about this email I need to answer? Or has it been 6 hours since I've eaten anything? Right.
Right.
Or did I forget to drink my coffee this morning and I'm starting to get a caffeine headache or something like that, right? Like, so starting the process of being able to step into your body and take an internal inventory of where you're at, of where your body is, about how you're feeling, and starting that process can often mean pausing in the middle of something you are hyper focused on, or you are like, wanting that to be, wanting to not pay attention to it.
Right.
So learning how to, kind of check in, how to take a beat, how to stop and listen before you sort of continue to ignore.
Thinking back to the masking episode that we talked about, I feel like in a way, is this sort of like internal masking? Like you're you're,
Yeah.
you're hiding yourself from yourself?
Yes, that's exactly what it is. And it's I would say your interoception in particular is really low if you are high masking. If you are
Right.
if you are performing and you are in a mindset of having to be something that is inauthentic to who you are, your capability of checking in with your body is going to be compromised, because you're going to be checking in with your mask before you check in with your actual physical body.
Right. Well, I would think even
That's
proprioception,
a great insight. That was a great, yeah.
proprioception too, right? Your like body awareness like is going to be off because you're masking as well. So I
Absolutely. Like your ability to track where you are in space when you are working so hard at like a performance of who you are,
mhm.
versus looking at your actually where you are. Like, think about, let me challenge you a little bit here. Let me push you a little bit into this conversation, since I've shared a lot of moments in this, and let's see if you have any moments like this.
Okay.
Think about when you were a DJ, because I think when you were a DJ, you were very highly masking, because that was very performative, right?
Mhm.
Think about a wedding or an event that was not going well.
Okay.
And think about if you were more likely, or if you had a moment where you were bumping into things, or where you dropped things, or where you messed up your setup, or you lost track of, I don't know, headphones you needed, or something you needed up on the DJ stand, something like that.
Okay, so I was in such a rhythm and not
Mhm.
to like, pat myself on the back here, but I got in such a rhythm just because I did so many events
Right.
that
Yeah.
I was just so
It was
like, it
just
was so
autopilot.
programmed that it was
Mhm.
autopilot. However, the last event that I did, I had not done an event for like 6 months, and I had scheduled this out about a year in advance, and it was a wedding, beautiful place, like overlooking the San Francisco Bay, and I was totally out of my rhythm, and so I really
Yep.
didn't know what I was doing in a way,
Yeah.
like with like I just wasn't used to things, and then I go and I look, and I my laptop. I'm like, oh yeah, I got to plug it in because it's only at 20% or something like that, and I don't have my cord, to plug in the laptop. And I'm like, oh, all my music is on the laptop. Like, this is not
Yeah.
good because I forgot to do a backup as well of like on CDs. So I have to have this. So I had to leave the wedding, go to an Apple store, buy an adapter, come back, plug it in while the music was playing for like cocktails or something like that. So
Yeah.
like it was, and I get back and I plug it in and it's like 3%. I'm like, oh my god, that was crazy. So like
So close.
that, I think getting out of the
Right.
like rhythm of doing it all the time, and it was weird because I guess what I'm getting at here is I was sort of in a way masking my old self in my
Right.
new body. six
Yes.
months later, it's like, oh, I can go in and do this. And I
Right.
think
You
I
still thought you
experienced.
had the autopilot and the autopilot
Yeah.
was gone.
Yeah,
Right.
I was just
Yeah.
dependent upon that because I was just
Mhm.
so like, "Oh, this is
Mhm.
easy. This is what I do." And I
Mhm.
feel like, doing improv back in my high school days, which, a couple years after yours, I'm
Shut
just
up.
kidding. I love to throw these
We
little
did
things in there
improv
because right
together in
now,
high school. I
current
introduced you to
currently
improv.
currently, we are not the same age. Um,
Yeah, you've got 20
yeah.
days, 30
Yeah,
days.
exactly, where I can say that. So, the, yeah, I totally forgot because I threw an age joke at you. This is the most amount of age jokes I've thrown at you during this
I
podcast.
know. Back
Yeah,
back at
yeah.
back in high school, you were saying high
Right,
school
back in high
improv.
school. So doing improv back then versus jumping on the stage, like I've done
Yeah.
it, I did it, and then I took a break for 10 years or so, and then I did it, and then
Yeah.
I took a break for like 5 years, and I'm, doing it again. And it's like each time it's sort of like relearning
Yeah.
like who I
Yep.
am doing that and
Mhm.
how I should do this and what's my comfort level as far as character goes and
Mhm.
all these different things. So it's interesting
Yeah.
that like getting back into things, and when
Right.
once you step away from it and you get
Yeah.
try to get back into it, how you
Yeah,
think
it's
it's
a
going to be
relearning
something and
process,
it's
and every
something
time you
completely different.
yeah, and every time you go into it, you're different, right? So, like, you've
Right.
changed and, like, you've grown for, whatever ways that you've grown at this point, and, like, so when we were doing high school improv,
Hmm.
there was a lot of like, there's a lot of sort of developmentally appropriate performance that goes on through, like, adolescence, because what you're really doing in that era of your life is figuring out, who you are and what's important to you. And so when we were doing improv back in high school, there was a high performativity to it, right? Because that's just, I mean, it's performance anyway, but we were already like in these like identities we had created, because that's part of what you do,
Hmm.
is that's you are learning like that,
Yeah.
that identity. And so when you're talking about and you're telling this story about like how you had the setup so smoothed out when you were DJing, right? It was because you had created this, not just a persona that you were using as your DJ, which is, a kind of mask. You'd also created an entire flow that supported your interoception and supported your proprioception.
Hmm.
And that's
Totally.
what you
Yeah.
recognized when you had the 6-month gap, was your brain had written that over. Like,
Right.
that was
Yeah,
no
it's gone.
longer data that it needed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it had completely replaced those files with, whatever, other stuff you were doing at the time. So, I think that is very much, a story of this, because you just created an environment where you could just run on autopilot, where it, all of those internal and sort of space needs were planned out for you.
Yeah, totally. And
Yeah.
it's like I felt out of place
Right.
when I did the event.
Yeah.
And that just made it not go as smooth as I wanted it to. I mean, I
Right.
don't really, I can't remember. It's been so long now that I can't remember the exact things that happened that evening, but I remember feeling like just out of place. And
Yeah. I think that if I were to try to go back to teaching now, I would have a very similar experience to that.
Mhm.
It's been,
Yeah.
more than 5 years at this point that I've been out of the classroom. And I think that I would struggle as well, because I think there was a lot. I think it was very similar for me. Like, I had, set ways that I did things, and, kind of like a just running thing of like how I would run every class, especially when I was at like my height and teaching like 6 classes a term, which I cannot imagine doing now that I am unmasked and know what burnout feels like. And know what burnout recovery feels like.
Right.
Because that's another part of burnout, is like when you learn that you have recovered or are recovering from burnout, you start to become very careful about like, nope,
Yep.
nope,
Right.
nope, can't do that, because I know where that leads. But I think I would have the same thing. I think that my masking and my process for teaching would go through something similar
Mm-hmm.
if I were to try to do that.
However, you were just a teacher, because we started this episode with me not understanding these 2 words, and now I'm giving you examples. Come on.
I know. And that's what I love about how we do this, is that,
Man, if only this type of service, like, and what you're doing was available to
right.
people that are listening to the podcast.
Yes,
Is that
definitely
the
check
strangest
out.
segue ever for you?
That was a pretty rough one. Yes.
All right, just tell us.
Well, go and sign up for my newsletter. Go sign up for my newsletter on divergentpathsconsulting.com. And I am starting to launch that with more detailed explanations of kind of what we talk about in the podcast, with like some of these approaches and some of the things that you can do to accommodate yourself, to accommodate your kids, to accommodate your employees. All that will be in the newsletter. So head over to divergentpathsconsulting.com and sign up for the newsletter.
You know what you can include in those newsletters?
What?
You could throw in one of those old stories, because I used to call you after DJing and would tell you.
That's right. I used to get, well, and sometimes I used to listen to you DJ, right?
Yeah. You listen in. See, I was that comfortable, and I couldn't imagine that on that. Like, doing it again, like, what? No, there's no way.
That is a flashback. I love that. If you're someone who's been told you're clumsy or awkward, and you've always felt disconnected from your body or your limits, you're not alone. Interoception and proprioception are real, and they matter. If you want to learn more about how these systems impact your life and how to work with, not against, your brain, head to my website and sign up for the newsletter. Or better yet, join us for a nerd group session where we talk about all this stuff in real time. Until next time, stay curious and stay kind to your body.